We're so in sync.
We are in.
You should have said no.
Backstreet Boys,
Yeah, okay,
I know.
yeah.
Well,
You failed though. You didn't.
I was trying to avoid that second time cringe.
If you haven't noticed, we don't cut much out.
And we know they get long. Trust me, we know our videos get long. We know not everybody wants to hear all of this, but for people like us that wanted to watch people like us and listen to all the details and stuff, that's why we do it too.
You're so
That wind is nice.
it's
But
beautiful.
look, it's not ruffling our plastic, Jason. Can you tell us why?
It is actually. You see the little.
Shh, just go with it.
Why
It's a
no,
whole
dear?
movie.
What do you mean? So we made another investment.
They are investments.
And I wanted to make this video, so we're not sponsored.
Nope.
Shout out to John at Berry Hill Irrigation. He
We'll
was
put
our
the link
salesman.
below.
Good dude. So we got a raised bed
Maker.
maker. I don't know what you have. It's a raised bed attachment.
I have a video. Ready?
Look what I got. So it finally, I say finally, it came actually pretty quick. This is the bed shaper. I don't know anything about it yet. We just got it unpacked. It's way bigger than I was expecting. It's taller than I thought, but this is going to be the workhorse for our flowers and fall crops.
Now, to be a smart and educated owner, what are you about to go do? He's going to read the book.
I'm going to read the book.
He's going to read the instructions, yes. All right, go. Yes. Divorce, that's for sure. We've done all of these rows. Ooh, I about lost the water line. Anyway, we've done all these rows so far. We're gonna plant some pumpkins, other fall things, gourds and things like that, to kind of use it as a tester run. Isn't it beautiful? It's beautiful.
I hope you really went back and edited it and you're not tired and we're just, yeah.
I have a video.
So I wanted to make this just over the top good review about this tool. And I've used it very little, but what it did for what I wanted to do, my expectations were granted. It's a great tool, but then I thought about it. I'm like, well, we've come a long way. We've come through the experience. We've bought the tools we needed to get here. Great tool, but I don't know if it's a great tool for everybody, right? I'm questioning myself now. Why are you looking at me like that?
I think anybody that uses it and needs it will think it's a great tool.
Yes.
I mean,
but you have to have a tiller, right? You need to prep the ground
yeah.
before you use it. It's not a magic tool. For us, it was. It fit into what we were doing and took us to the next level of minimizing labor and using, you know, the best of what is available for small scale farming. Perfect, absolutely perfect for us. We had already invested in a tiller. We could prep the beds. And even with the fabric, there's a lot of labor that goes with it, fighting it, and there's a lot of wind here. The fabric is what we wanted. We just didn't realize how bad the grass was going to encroach on that and how much of a pain it was going to be. So it was a solution we wanted. It was just an application. It was a lot harder than we thought. So we thought about it. We've done some research, and we want to do some more melons and stuff next year, some bigger crops. But without the infrastructure and the grass and stuff, we can't maintain it. We tested it out here, and the grass just overran our melons. And
well, it's doing it in the backyard too. We're just letting it go, though. I mean, nothing you can't do.
And two of us cannot maintain that, not in work. And even if we didn't work, that is not something that I would. It's too much labor. You can't do it. This is the next step that I can use with a small tiller. I have a 5-foot tiller on my tractor, so I prepped this bed and I tilled it, and I let it dry out, and I tilled it again. So I broke all that clay up into a fine
clay,
fluffed up powder. It looks like great dirt when it's dry. You're like, oh my gosh, that's great dirt, and it is until it gets wet. But I fluffed it up and I prepped and I was ready for it. And we've watched videos on this, but we've watched videos on everything we've done, and it looks great on the video, and you try it and it's like, wow, this is not as easy as it looks. There's a lot of prep and knowledge that goes behind making that work. Anyway, so I got this, and this was the expectation I had, but I'm like, you know, there's got to be something I'm missing, because this would just be too perfect. Well, it got in. Jenna helped me unload it with a tractor. We drug it down. We started making runs, and it was kind of goofy. We didn't know what we were doing, adjusting it. Finally, after 3 or 4 runs, took us probably a couple hours total to unpack it, figure out how to put it together, put it on, adjust it, and we're making rows. They weren't perfect, and we ruined probably 300 foot of plastic out of a 4,000 foot row, just learning what to do. And that's even with making a couple of dry runs, and then we put the plastic on, and then we put the drip line on, practice runs. But even within that, I would say within 4 hours, we unloaded it, packed it, adjusted it, and made 4 of the beds. And we quit because we had a big harvest that night. In a few hours, it was that easy to use. And it's gonna be a game changer for us as far as what we can offer and the amount of labor we can put into something to offer our customers.
And we came out the next day. So we had 2 more rows that had to be done, and literally it took maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably took us about half hour, but we're out here talking. I don't know.
I mean, I'm talking from me putting the stuff down and him going, cutting it, coming back, putting it down, going, cutting it. 10 minutes. We were out here maybe talking before or after or whatever, but the actual time spent making 2 150-foot rows or whatever, 10 minutes.
Yeah, the runs take maybe 2 minutes. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe half hour with us talking through it, and I've got the tractor running, I can't
because we're still learning it a little bit, but I mean, the actual action of doing it was so fast.
So not to say that we would, but with this setup, I think we could easily plant the whole 7 acres we have here and manage it. As long as we had the irrigation and the infrastructure in place, no problem with that setup. It's that good.
Yeah. What are you, little thing? Looks like a grasshopper, but it's tiny.
Oh, I started quiet.
The cat hair. He's chilling with the cat hair. Ninja. Oh.
So that's the glowing review. It was perfect for us, but it's not a magic bullet, right? You have to have the knowledge to apply it, the tools to use it, the tiller, the tractor. So that it's a pretty heavy investment on the front end, but it is totally worth it.
The struggle we've had every step doing this, because I guess most people would probably do the same thing that we did, is you start not spending as much money as possible.
Yeah.
And you try to, you know what I mean? And then you find something, you're like, okay, it's worth it for me to spend this much. And you might
wall
find
of labor, and it's like, oh, $500
done. I'm
gonna throw money. I just spent 8 hours in 90 degrees, but 100% humidity. Yes, please. 500. That's a steal. Take my money.
It started with the fertilizer.
So we have significant investment in this. Not outrageous, but I mean, the tiller's a few thousand. The raised bed attachment and the material we bought was another $3,000. The tractor was $20,000 with all the attachments. So over time, it's a pretty hefty investment. But I never dreamed that I could manage an acre.
Farm.
For people that don't farm, an acre, and I'm not talking about like fully automated big tractor monoculture farming. Those guys, that's crazy. They are crazy efficient. But hand planting, even if you have a tiller, but tending an acre of gardening, is more than a full-time. It's crazy. It's a crazy amount of labor and a crazy amount of crops you can grow in that.
And it's upkeep. You gotta keep up with that stuff. Once you get it in the ground, you don't get to just let it grow. You have to guide it. You have to trim it. There's so much more to it.
Now we're gonna grow more. We're gonna stretch out a little bit. The way we grew this year was more focused on growing up, and putting a lot in a small amount of space, but that also requires a lot of labor.
Right.
And we like some of that, so some of that we're going to, especially with the hoop house, we're going to have a lot of that. We're going to maximize the space in the hoop house.
Yep.
This stuff out here, we're going to stretch out a little bit to use the tools that we have efficiently and automate it, so it's not a lot of labor throughout, right? It's prep, set up, and then we just watch it and tend it, and then we harvest. And don't have to deal with this nasty Bermuda crab. I don't
It's
know.
crabgrass. Bermuda's fine. Bermuda it's like your normal grass. Crabgrass is.
But when it's hot and it competes with anything, you can't
Yeah,
grow it.
crabgrass is the winner.
Oh, and it loves this nasty thick clay because it can hold on. I've said all this good stuff and talked it up. I have grown 0 things under this.
Get that out of
I think this fluffs up enough that I think sunflowers are going to thrive. I think everything's going to thrive. It's going to be strong enough to get those roots down and fill out the raised bed.
Because the only water it's going to get is maybe a little bit of rain, but what we give it mostly.
Right.
So it won't compact. Like
The plastic is going to run everything off, and
Yeah.
we can somewhat. Now, we can't control everything if it floods.
But it's the
pathways are gonna
compaction.
get
It's not
through.
even the water the amount of water. It's just how the water hits the dirt and makes the dirt solid.
Yeah, so I knew we needed a solution, and this was the piece we needed to push it over. Like, hey, if we get that, it's a pretty significant investment, but
Its own.
that puts us in a different place with, even maybe we can get fall crops in, which we did. We have no expectations of what's going to go here, but we threw some seedlings on late, and we germinated them at a high temperature, and they blew up. The cucurbits did fantastic. They're still solid, and they're ready to go. We're going to give them, a few more days to a week before we plant them.
A little bit bigger.
But we've got a good crop of goblin egg squash.
Goblin egg gourds.
Gourds.
And a different kind of gourd. I can't remember what it's called. And then we have speckled hound pumpkins, which they're a decorative pumpkin, but they're still kind of a bigger pumpkin. And then we have some.
Are they orange or are they green?
They're orange and green speckled.
Okay.
And then we have some sugar pumpkins for pies, and then we have some jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. So a little bit of everything. See how it goes. This is still a tester grow for us, just to see how to grow things, because we've never grown them before.
I'm the one that always pushes for toys. This time I went into it, like I've said 16 times in this video. It's important to me, so I'm like, no, we're not gonna wait on anything to get the next big toy to be able to be successful. We dove in, right? And it costs money, but not the big toy, right? It was gonna be sweat equity,
right,
and fabric. And that's still buying something, but that's gonna let you know that's a $100 investment. That's gonna quickly let you know, are you into that or not? And it's a good concept, and we learn from it, but it didn't take long for us to learn this is going to work and we want to do it, but I ain't down for all that work. So if there is an option for us to be able to do it,
exactly,
and we have to invest a little bit, we're going to do it.
We loved it enough to still want to do it, even after all the struggle or whatever. So we
and
just
this
found
was
a
a
better
rough
way to do
year
it.
with the cold snap early and then the friggin' 2 months of rain. Everything came late. This was a rough year, and we've still been successful.
We've learned so much. This has been a huge year of growth for us in general, so literally and figuratively.
with all that in mind, this tool we bought, I couldn't give it a better recommendation.
Yeah.
At this point, again, I have 0 experience in growing, but again, I've set up a style that I can plant my sunflowers. We can plant the fall crops. I'm getting older, my back, that's usually when it goes at the end of the day, or when it starts hurting, I'm done. I can't, if I push it any more than that, I'm gonna be down the next day. if this works, which I think it will, the soil's going to be loose. It's going to be protected. I know the science behind it. I'm super excited about it. And with zero growing experience, I couldn't be more excited.
We're gonna make
Remind me, and we'll do a review after we've got some crops done in it, and talk about, you know, what are the downsides. So the biggest downsides for us in the fabric, we're getting it laid down. So many staples. It's always windy here. It's very seldom not windy when we would want to put that fabric down. And you have to have the beds prepped perfect.
Storm season, yeah.
And in putting the fabric down and stapling it down, people step in it, and it's a good concept. And if we didn't have crabgrass and all this, this would fit. I could see this fitting in a
smaller,
less Oklahoma environment, because this addresses another thing on top of it. Because we are the king of
things.
Yeah, big expectations and follow through.
I'm pretty slick
working
today.
On. You are. You're
I think
slick every day. She wants to. She can be. I've been married to her, right? So I get her sense of humor. So when she puts the time into it, and she spent a few hours on these, I giggle because I get all the stuff she's done. I hope you guys too get it, but yeah, that's kind of why I married her. I need to stop talking.